Betrayal can feel like a knife to the heart. When someone you care deeply about lifts their mask, a mask you thought contained their true selves, and breaks the bonds you built, your life changes instantly. Suddenly, every human feels a little less human. You tiptoe through each new relationship, wary of a sneak attack that might reveal the true perception of this person. And as a result, you never fully show your emotions to someone again out of fear. What happens next depends on how deep that wound traveled. For some people, they just need a little bit of time to pass in order to try again. For others, they get lucky and they stumble into a platonic or romantic relationship that teaches them how to trust people again. But for others, sometimes months, maybe even years go by and they live in fear, this perpetual fear of that experience repeating itself. And any experience that even remotely replicates what happened in the moment of betrayal sets their nervous system on overdrive. How do I know? Because I've been there. I've had these bonds break. I've had people do things to me that would have made more sense in a dramatic romance novel than in real life. Things I could have never fathomed. But I'm here to tell you that there is a way out. I'm not a professional, and if you think that getting the help of a professional would be beneficial to you, you should do that. But I can tell you what worked for me and eventually led to me getting married. The first thing you got to understand, and this is how trauma develops, is that your mind and body are distorting your reality in order to keep you safe from a non-existent threat. When an intense negative experience like betrayal happens and we don't yet possess the ability to protect ourselves, or that experience is simply just too overwhelming for any human to protect themselves, then that experience, that trauma, gets stored in the body. If that experience leaves a deep enough imprint of the trauma, then anytime you are in an environment which kind of replicates that experience, or you just think about the experience that was traumatic, your body and mind are going to start to go into fight, flight, or fawn mode. This is when we get really sweaty hands, when our heart starts racing, when we get very fearful. We go into survival mode in order to protect ourselves, and it kind of warps our reality in that moment. In other words, when you get triggered by something like that, your body is basically reliving the experience that is no longer there. That's why we say trauma is stored in the body, because anything that triggers that response will transport you back to the experience of, in this case, betrayal. And you will basically relive the way you felt in the moment of betrayal every time that happens. Now, this response plays out differently based on different scenarios, and you might attract certain people or be more inclined to do certain things that you wish you wouldn't do. And these are patterns that come up due to the trauma. So let me know if any of these sound familiar to you. Now, anytime someone tries to get close to you, you might try to distance yourself as a way to protect yourself from the perceived danger, which is the person getting close to you and potentially betraying you. Or maybe you're starting to develop a relationship, but no matter how many times this person reassures you, you just can't believe them, and you're just waiting for the moment for them to switch up. Your mind will say stuff like, do they really believe the things they're saying? Is this person just getting ready to do something to me? Or without even realizing it, maybe you're one of those people who just gravitates towards others who can't get close, who don't want to get close to you, who show some sort of avoidant problems. Because that way there's less risk of betrayal if the person was never there to begin with. Or you go out of your way to keep peace, avoid conflict, and be as likable as possible. But deep down, this is just a way to try to ensure that you never go through that same experience of betrayal again. So these are completely understandable reactions to a moment in time that damaged you in a way, that altered your reality, and it altered the way you see reality and how you choose to move forward in your life. And if any of these actions sounded familiar to you, it's likely you had an experience that left that imprint on you. So the question is, how do you heal, right? Well, first off, you've got to become aware of when these situations happen, of when you have this inclination to want to retreat or try to be super likable, or try to second guess someone's true feelings. You have to understand that this is what the trauma within you built. It built this distorted reality within you. And in those moments, you have to gently nudge them and basically provide proof that you are not in a situation that is dangerous to you anymore. You have to tell your body and mind and convince your body and mind, hey, we're not in danger anymore. We're safe here. We can open ourselves up to this person and learn to trust again. But it starts with recognizing those moments and really convincing your brain and giving it some sort of proof. So to build more awareness around that, here's some questions you could ask yourself. What does this situation remind me of? Why do I feel tense or closed off right now? What story am I telling myself about what this person will do? And then once you answer those questions, you build that awareness. It's about initiating small moments of safety, providing the evidence that to your nervous system that you are safe. So an example of this, let's say you're having a conversation with someone you have feelings for, and you find it's getting into a bit of a vulnerable territory. Maybe they're talking about their past and they kind of want you to open up and they want to learn more about you. And you know that this might cause some distrust or just like uncomfortableness, but you decide to open up anyway. If this person makes you feel safe enough to do that and you open up and you see that it was received well, take a mental note of that. And I'm sure your brain and mind, or your mind and body will too, and they'll just naturally say, oh, look, we can do this without getting hurt. And when they can see that, they're more willing, your mind and body is more willing to do this and open up in the future. Or maybe you feel yourself wanting to pull away from someone who's getting closer, like one of the examples I outlined earlier. In that moment, just staying with them a little longer, convincing yourself, I am safe here. This person is not a threat. What happened to me in the past is what happened to me in the past. And these physiological responses are just because of that past experience. This person is not here to intentionally hurt me, I hope, and I can be safe here. So you just stay in that moment for a little bit longer. Then you're providing more proof to your mind and body. Over time, you are sending repeated messages to your nervous system that you can be safe again in these moments when you're with other people and you want to be vulnerable, which is kind of necessary in order to form relationships, to get to know people. We have to be vulnerable and open ourselves up to people. And you do that enough, then slowly over time, those intense negative feelings that are produced start to quell. And I will say this time and time again, it is my favorite quote or phrase I've ever created on letting go. And that quote is, in order to let go of someone, you must outgrow the version of yourself that existed when you were with that someone, when that negative experience happened. That's what this process is. You have to convince yourself you're no longer the person you were in the moment when the trauma was imprinted into you, and open yourself up to be safe and not feel like you're under threat. Now, that's not to say you force yourself to be vulnerable with the wrong type of people. It is important that when you undergo this process of convincing your brain and providing it proof, you are in a safe environment where people are really accepting of you and willing to hear you out. When you feel safe, take that chance to open up, to trust, and that will give you the proof. And eventually you'll get to the point where I did, where you realize that being vulnerable with others doesn't have to be terrifying. It does open you up for the chance to get judged or ridiculed or rejected, yes, but by that point, you will have the confidence to take that risk, knowing that this is an inevitable part of forming relationships, of falling back into love again, is being vulnerable and opening up and having that chance. We can't control everybody. And it's possible, that you do maybe get betrayed and you can't control that. But if you're willing to go through that experience, if you feel safe enough to have that tiny little, oh, this might happen in the back of your mind, and then choose to open yourself up anyway and develop a relationship, eventually that's how you get to the point where this person would never betray me. Like, this is not going to happen again. And that's how I got to that point eventually with my wife, knowing that I so fully trust this person enough to want to spend the rest of my life with them. And that is what I hope this video helps you to do too. So no, you're not broken. You're not going to be like this forever. You don't have to be. Your body was just responding the way that it's designed to perceived threats. I hope this was helpful. And if you want to hear some of my writing, I am writing a novel that is about a 21-year-old living in a post-pandemic world who develops the ability to see into a parallel reality. It's going to be blending like sci-fi, psychological thriller, philosophy, self-improvement. If you like those kind of things, I think you'll like the book. If you want to get updates and read more of my writing, this is actually a piece I took from my Substack, most of this video. That's also where the book updates are. The link is in the description to that. And if you want to join a community that gives you that safe space to open up and be vulnerable, then you can join my self-mastery school. We meet in a video call every single weekend, and you can talk about anything. We don't judge, and hopefully that sort of community would help you build the confidence to open up to people again and not feel like everyone is going to betray you. So link in the description to that as well if you want to join, and thank you for watching.